What is up, everybody? It is Kovaz back again, this time with a single target guide both for Raid and Mythic Plus as a marksmanship hunter in Shadowlands. In this guide, I'm going to go over your ideal covenants and soulbinds, your best gear options, different talent setups that you can take for different types of fights, as well as an explanation on the 3 different types of rotations that you'll want to do in a single target fight. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is your Covenant choice. Marksmanship hunters are most powerful right now when it comes to our burst AoE potential by combining both True Shot and Wild Spirits. Because of this, I recommend being Night Fae for all PvE content as of patch 9.0.1 in Shadowlands as a marksmanship hunter. The soulbind that you'll want to choose when doing PvE content as a marksmanship hunter is Naya. This is because her Grove Invigoration ability gives us mastery when we use our Wild Spirits, which gives us even more damage when we are already at our most powerful. You will always take the left path first with Naya, as it gives us early access to a potency conduit, which we will always have Spirit Attunement in. Your next choices until the bottom row are absolutely personal preference. However, I recommend putting Reversal of Fortune in your Finesse conduit for extra focus generation, and running Rejuvenating Wind as a well-rounded endurance conduit. The next choice to make is either an extra endurance conduit and Naya's tools Burrs, or an extra potency conduit and Naya's tools Poison. When making this choice, I recommend going with the tools Burrs plus the extra endurance conduit. While this might not be intuitive, taking the extra endurance conduit and taking Naya's tools Burrs is our highest damage option both in single target and AoE. Not only that, but taking that extra endurance slot helps make up for our shortcoming as a hunter by being generally squishy. Next up is gear. Generally speaking, for single target, your stat priority is going to be crit above all else, followed by both mastery and haste, and then lastly, versatility. However, that is just a general guideline, and it is very likely that your best gear will not follow that same priority. Whenever you're deciding which gear to wear, always sim yourself. Always sim yourself. I always sim myself using raid bots. I find it to be the easiest and most straightforward way to find my best gear set. However, one good rule of thumb is to always try and have at least one on-use trinket that buffs your character. Good options are the 1-minute cooldown on-use trinket from PvP, the 3-minute cooldown trinket from DOS, and the 1.5-minute cooldown trinket from SOA. Next up, let's talk talents. For the first row, you are always going to take Master Marksman. Both other options for this row lose value in comparison because they aren't passive, they cost focus, and it takes a global to apply each of them, which makes them lose the edge when it comes to Master Marksman as far as potential damage output. On the second row, for pure single target fights, you're going to take Careful Aim. If the fight has any amount of AoE, it is very likely that Explosive Shot will become valuable enough to choose. But this will depend on the fight and how important single target damage is compared to overall DPS if you pad on ads. Now, the third row does not have any damage options, and it is mostly a healing and utility oriented row. Your 3 options are Trailblazer, Natural Mending, and Camouflage. In raid situations, you're going to want to take Natural Mending 99% of the time. This is because Camouflage can only be used out of combat and has no use in raid. Simply put, your choice for the 4th row is going to depend on whether you are hitting 1, 2, or 3 or more targets. When the majority of the fight only has you hitting 1 target, Steady Focus gives you the most damage output. If the fight consistently has you hitting 2 targets, Chimera Shot is the best choice in this row. For Mythic Plus or AoE-oriented fights, Streamline is going to be your best option, and it generally pulls ahead of the other 2 if you consistently hit 3 or more targets. For the 5th row, you are either going to choose Post Haste or Born to be Wild. In most fights and Mythic Plus situations, you'll take Post Haste because the burst mobility is very useful for avoiding mechanics and keeping up with the group when you're pulling the dungeon as fast as you can. For the 6th row, currently, you will take Double Tap in all situations. And finally, for the 7th row, you will be taking Lock and Load for purely single target fights, and Volley if there is any AoE involved. These are just general guidelines that should help you when choosing your talents. As I make hunter-oriented boss guides in the future for each boss in Castle Nathria, I will go over each fight and which talents you will want specifically for that fight in order to get the best results. Your single target rotation as a marksmanship hunter can be split up into 3 different priority orders that you're going to follow at different parts in the fight. The first is your opening rotation, the second is your true shot rotation, and then the third is your filler rotation between your big cooldowns. You're going to have 2 different possible openers that you can perform, and these will depend on your talent choices. These opening rotations only last a few globals each, but they are the best way to lead into a true shot to maximize that true shot damage. As such, you should go through these opening rotations before each and every true shot in a fight, not just at the beginning. The simplest of the two openers is when you're using the Steady Focus talent. When using the Steady Focus talent, you simply start out with 2 steady shots, and then go straight into your true shot rotation after casting Wild Spirits. The reason I start out with these 2 steady shots is because although it does cap your focus, it gives you your highest uptime on your Steady Focus buff, and allows you to get straight into your true shot window. One important thing to note when using this opener is to be within 22 yards of your target before you cast your first aim shot into that Wild Spirits. The reason for this is that there's currently a bug in the game, and if you are not within 22 yards of your target, when you double tap an aim shot into a Wild Spirits, you will only get 2 procs instead of the 3 that you should get. When you're within 22 yards of your target, you will get 1 proc for your aim shot, 1 proc for the Serpent Sting that is applied because of your aim shot, and then a 3rd proc for that double tapped aim shot. But this will only happen when you are within 22 yards of your target. If you are 23 yards or further, you will only get 2 procs. Your cast sequence for this opener is going to be casting double tap before the pull, and then with 2 seconds left in the pull timer, you start a steady shot directly into another steady shot before immediately casting Wild Spirits, True Shot, and going on with your True Shot rotation. The second and slightly more involved opening cast sequence is when you are not using your Steady Focus talent. This is most likely to be used during Mythic Plus boss fights or raid fights that have a lot of cleave, and as such, you will likely have Explosive Shot and Volley when you are doing this opener. Now this opener, similarly to the last, is going to require that you double tap before the pull starts, but instead of pre-casting a Steady Shot, you will pre-cast Aim Shot about 2.3 seconds depending on your haste before the pull timer finishes. Directly after that, if you are running Explosive Shot, you will want to use that, followed by a Wild Spirits, followed by a Volley, again, if you have it talented, and then you will begin your True Shot rotation by pressing True Shot, Aim Shot, and Rapid Fire. Next up, we have our True Shot rotation, and this seems to give people the most trouble. First and foremost, when True Shotting, you're going to need to disregard your Precise Shots procs almost completely. This is because you're going to have so many aim shots to cast and so many rapid fires to press that if you were to arcane shot for all of your procs, you would very quickly run out of focus, cap on aim shots, and lose out on a ton of damage potential. Simply put, when true shotting, if you can cast aim shot, you should. If you can't cast aim shot, cast rapid fire. If you can neither aim shot nor rapid fire, you will want to cast steady shot. If that steady shot would cap out your focus, then instead of a steady shot, you cast arcane shot. Again, the only time that you will want to cast arcane shot while true shotting is if aim shot is on cooldown, rapid fire is on cooldown, and casting a steady shot would cap your focus. If you find yourself capping out on aim shots frequently during your true shot window, it is likely that you are either casting arcane shot too frequently, or you are not pressing rapid fire as frequently as you could be. Next up is the filler rotation. Your filler rotation revolves around keeping your abilities on cooldown when possible, while also maintaining your priority buffs such as steady focus, and spending as many precise shots procs as possible. Above all else, you want to avoid two things from ever happening. You never want to cap out on focus, and you want to make sure that aim shot never hits 2 charges. Your next highest priority is going to be maintaining your steady focus buff if you have that talented, and this applies even during your true shot windows. A good tip here is to always steady shot twice in a row if your steady focus buff has fewer than 8 seconds remaining. In order to do this, you will often need to plan ahead and make sure that casting 2 steady shots in a row won't cap your focus. In order to do this, simply cast an aim shot before your steady shots, or if aim shot is not available, simply cast an arcane shot or 2 before refreshing your steady focus buff. Next up on your priority order is casting kill shot every single time it is available. While kill shot might not be our hardest hitting ability, it is our most efficient ability when it comes to its focus cost for its damage output. And as such, if the boss is below 20% health, or if there are adds nearby that are in execute range, you will want to cast kill shot. Next up on the list is setting up for your cooldowns if your true shot and wild spirits are close to being available again. In order to do this, you simply repeat your opener rotation before going into your true shot rotation again. Next up, you'll want to make sure that you use double tap as soon as possible between your big cooldown windows. Since double tap only has a 1-minute cooldown, if you use it directly on cooldown, it will be up again for your next set of true shot and wild spirits. After using double tap, you will want to prioritize spending that double tap on an aim shot whenever possible. Although it doesn't happen frequently, sometimes you will have just cast an aim shot and then double tap will come off cooldown and you won't have an aim shot available for some time. If your aim shot won't be available and a rapid fire is available, it is okay to spend that double tap on a rapid fire, because if you don't, you're going to have a lot of dead time in your rotation. The next highest priority button press is going to be rapid fire on cooldown, so long as this would not cap your focus. Right after rapid fire is arcane shot in order to spend precise shots procs. And then right below that is casting aim shot when none of the above are possible. Remember, if aim shot is close to or at 2 charges, it is your highest priority button press. But when you have some time before you reach 2 charges, aim shot should be seen as a low priority filler. Next up are your 2 lowest priority button presses, and that is steady shot when you already have plenty of time left on your steady focus buff, and arcane shot when you have no procs to spend. When choosing between an arcane shot with no procs and a steady shot when you don't need to refresh your buff, simply ask if you are high on focus or not, and if you are high on focus and about to cap, use an arcane shot, and if you're not going to cap on focus by pressing steady shot, press that steady shot. And a couple of tips to keep in mind when going through this filler rotation is if you want to press a rapid fire or you want to press a steady shot in order to refresh your buff, but you're going to be capping out on focus, just press an arcane shot or 2 even without procs before casting these abilities to make sure that you don't cap out on focus. One way of thinking that really helped me improve my damage and my rotation's fluidity is thinking of aim shot as a filler when it's not at or near 2 charges. The fact that aim shot has 2 charges gives us a lot of leeway to maintain important buffs and cast other important abilities to keep them on cooldown before we need to feel pressured to cast an aim shot. Most people understand that aim shot is the foundation of our rotation, and it is where most of our damage comes from, both through the aim shot damage itself and through precise shots procs. However, this also tends to make people prioritize aim shot a little bit too much when it isn't at or near 2 charges, which leads to them casting an aim shot when they could instead cast a rapid fire, refresh their steady focus buff, or spend their precise shots procs. 2 other important abilities which are not likely to be taken for a single target raid fight, but will often be used in Mythic Plus are Explosive Shot and Volley. Both of these should be used on cooldown as much as possible unless adds are going to be coming up shortly after they're pressed. So Explosive Shot with a 30-second cooldown should not be pressed if adds would spawn in the next 30 seconds. Volley with a 45-second cooldown should be held if adds will spawn in the next 45 seconds, because both of these abilities become much more valuable whenever there are AoE opportunities coming up. Now to show each of these rotations in action. First off is your opener with Steady Focus as a talent. You'll want to double tap before the pull, precast a steady shot, cast another steady shot, and then Wild Spirits directly into a true shot, from which point you will do a true shot rotation. Next up, your opening rotation if you are not using the Steady Focus talent, which is often going to be used in Mythic Plus and AoE raid fights. You're going to double tap before the pull, you're going to precast an aimed shot instead of steady shot, you explosive shot if it's talented, then Wild Spirits, volley if it is talented, and then true shot, and go into your true shot rotation from there. Next up, I'm going to show you your true shot rotation, and before doing a true shot rotation, I am going to start with my Steady Focus opening rotation. So I double tap, steady shot twice, and then Wild Spirits and true shot before casting an aim shot into a rapid fire. I have aim shot available, I press it. Another aim shot is available, I press it. Rapid fire coming up, I press that. Another aim shot available, and then you refresh your Steady Focus buff. Again, aim shot is available, press it, rapid fire, and then another aim shot. Now your true shot rotation is not always going to look like that, as in a raid fight you're going to have varying levels of haste from either a power infusion or a bloodlust at different times of the fight, and so you really need to focus on a priority list to follow instead of a set rotation, because you will not always be able to follow the same rotation during a true shot, especially when you get lock and load procs. And finally, before I let you all go, I have a couple of tips that I think might be helpful to you. First and foremost, make sure that you are always thinking ahead, both when it comes to your rotation and mechanics that are coming up for the boss. While we can cast many abilities while moving, aim shot is not one of them. And if you find yourself having to move while having an aim shot very close to hitting 2 charges, you will be missing out on a lot of damage potential. By thinking ahead, you can cast an aim shot earlier than you would normally in order to make sure that you have either a rapid fire, precise shots procs, or steady shots to cast when that movement happens. Another tip is to be aware of when the boss itself will move. If a boss needs to move in about 10 seconds and your Wild Spirits are coming off cooldown, make sure that you delay your Wild Spirits until after the movement has finished. Wild Spirits is our biggest damage cooldown when paired with True Shot, and if you miss out on that during a fight, your damage is going to suffer immensely. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you found this guide helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and make any comments down below on any new videos you'd like to see. And come check me out at twitch.tv/Kovaz for some raiding, High Mythic Plus, and PvP content. Link is in the description. Peace out, and I will see you next time.